Okay, this is my journal. I'm gonna flat to the pages. We're almost at the end of this journal. We're gonna first reframe. And if you have a rectangular journal or one piece of paper, you can do, whatever you want. I kind of like to frame and reframe the pages so I don't do something that is too big, and I feel that, it sets for me the space that I want to fill. Now we're gonna switch with pencil and we're gonna set our pattern with some flowers. So we're gonna start by doing the center, the first central petal, nice and smooth, and then you close it. Then you're gonna add 2 or 3 petals on one side, going back to the first, like the central petal, both sides. And then on the back, you're gonna start from the center and you're gonna add the petals that are on the back. Therefore, we just see a little part of them. Then we're gonna create a stem for this flower, very simple and nice. And then we're gonna fulfill. We wanna fulfill the space in a way that we don't have such a huge background, and we want to position the flowers in different directions and different level on our paper, right? To make the composition nice and balanced, but also visually interesting. We don't want the same direction. We don't want all the same petals. So do not stress yourself if these petals happen to be slightly different. Actually, the better. Yeah, the more variety we have, the better. And then we're gonna just do the stem for this. So we're gonna bring it down, bring it down. There we go. We're gonna do the leaves at the end because we wanna make sure that we know exactly where to put them and how many. So this one, I will probably do one facing this side to create a sort of a little symmetry, which contribute to the balance and the harmony of a piece, right? And because I don't want to put emphasis in one specific flower, I want to make sure that the composition is balanced throughout the paper, the space that we have available. Definitely, I want to probably will have a leaf over here, leaf over here, leaf over here. So let's fulfill these 2 space. I'm going to switch the tilt once again. A couple on one side and a couple of petals on the other side. It's a very simple abstract type of flower, which is what we want. We're gonna define the stem, I'm gonna break it, bring it through, break it, and that's it. Then I think I'm gonna have a one over here, and maybe the stem will actually go out. Let me see, we have 1, 2, 3, 1, and probably this one will tilt a little bit. Let me see. It will be coming from the side. We almost go outside of our space. 1, 2, petals on the back. And then the stem will get here and we'll end outside. Now, let's plan our leaves, right? So definitely I want to start with one over here. I'm going to do the center and then with a nice undulated line, I will set my leaf. Then one, I will have it from here. We tilt the center of the leaves differently, and then with the same type of undulated line, we create the leaves. Now, let's do one over here coming from the back of this flower. And definitely I would like to have something over here in the center. and probably I will be the same flower that will give me two. And this one we kind of oriented to fulfill this space, a little overlapping, which is nice because it create that is a visual device that we can use. And I think that we're all ready to start. So I'm gonna play a little bit with some complementary colors. I'm gonna use some different type of blues to paint my petals, my flowers. Feel free to change the color palette according to your preferences. If you wanna play with some pink, for example, or red, just remember that then that the choice that you will make for the petals and the flower will impact also the rest of the color palette. So be intentional when you choose the color for the background. For example, I think that I will have, because I am doing blue, I want to have an orange like a background. I want to play with the complementary. Don't worry about the fact that we are painting with the same colors, the flower, because we're gonna do black outline and pattern at the end. So the design will come back. And sometimes when you use alcohol markers, you can just go over the same spot to create an extra saturation. So make your colors to look a little more intense, even if it's the same color. For example, if I go up over here, this side will be a little darker, it will stay. So you can kind of do something like that if you wish. For the back, I'm gonna use a different type of blue. So let's see, I'm going to switch to cobalt to another blue and see what happens. And I'm gonna color this flower. If you do not have several type of blue, you have two choices. You can do all the flower with the same color, or you can create your own. If you have a light and a darker blue, you can have one flower with light, one flower with dark, one you will overlap them both, so you will create a medium tone of blue. Or if you have a gray available, you can go over both the light blue and the dark blue with the gray. So you will have like you create a tone of the light blue and a tone for the dark blue. Remember that. And once again, if you didn't practice the color wheel that I recently reposted with better instructions and way better video quality than the first one that I did years ago when I first started this channel, I suggest you to go back and do that, because that is really a foundational practice for you to be able to really be intentional about the choice of your colors. What is what, how do the color that you choose will interact, what is the type of mood that they will set right in the piece. So there everything is included in the practice, which is amazing, refreshing, it's really beautiful. So I suggest you, just in case you don't remember your colors, if you already practice with me, keep that paper that you create next to you. If you didn't practice, just go back, practice that too, and then you will have a really good foundational knowledge about the color theory, the reference that we use for art, at least, because the primary colors, for example, in art are yellow, blue, and green, but the primary color instead, just for talking about the human eyes, for example, they are not those. It's like but for painting, for art, my video explained the color theory that we use very well. So I suggest you, encourage you to practice with that. Mm. I truly like the noise of the marker on the paper. unless it's really too squiggly, then I don't. My husband, for example, doesn't like it. Has like it gives him goosebumps when so I'm taking advantage now that he's not home, not yet. I need to color quickly. Once again, I'm gonna twist because I have the dual tip, and I'm going to just, let me see what else. I'm gonna go with the maybe a lighter blue, mm, nice and intense, type of sky blue. In the description box, I will add the link where you can find these markers. That they are shuttle art markers. This is not a paid partnership. It's just something that I use because they have very good value, for the money. They are not super expensive, and definitely they are not like the best on the market. You have a way more professional alcohol marker, but they come with a different price, right? I feel that these markers have a very good relation between price and quality, and I have been using for a few years now, and they never disappointed me. So I'm really happy to share with you the link as I did it on other um, videos, so you can buy them if you wish. Otherwise, as I say, because we are working on paper, you can do your practices also um, with regular markers, right? You might have a little, there might be a little different, difference in the texture, in the final result. But if you do a good job, that you use a good technique without scribbling, without moving too fast, even with traditional washable markers, you can have a wonderful, wonderful result. After all, the majority of the time when I'm in school with the young kids, I use those type of markers. And then I train my older, starting from fourth grade up, to alcohol markers also because, it's a matter of a budget. These alcohol markers, they are very expensive. In fact, in general, even the one that comes with a good price, they are still like a pricey supplies. And sometimes, because I teach the whole school and I have also elementary, I cannot, provide them the whole time. But I train them very well with regular markers. So when they get to use those type of markers, they know exactly how to use them and how to get the best result. Now I'm gonna use some of like the lighter blue to do the petals in the back. You can do lighter, you can go, darker. We are not concerning ourselves about the, realistic effect of the light on this piece. This is just like an abstract objective, because we can still see flower and understand what is that, but it's just like a pattern, a piece of art that we do to relax, to train some fine motor skills, to keeping us, to sharp these skills that we have been building, to have fun, test some colors and color options, and that's it. For this one, I will use this light, and for the two light flower, I'm gonna use instead the dark. I'm just more focused on creating a nice patterned color palette than on anything else. That's the goal of this project. Mhm. When I have to fulfill mostly small area, I like to outline my, you know, the area that I want to. So I'm gonna be sure, I'm sure that I'm not gonna color uh, places that I don't need to. Now we switch to a green. I want a dark intense green for the stem and the inside of the leaves, and then maybe the rest of the leaves we switch to a brighter green or a different type of green. Once again, see the palette that you have available and the color that you have available, and you can make your choice. You can have a one green for everything. You can have a couple of green like me, like to distinguish the stem and the vein inside the leaf with the rest of the leaf. And those green can be as dark or as light as you like, because once again, remember that it is your piece and you're allowed to make experiment. Just at the end, we're gonna play with these complementary colors. So we're gonna have like an orangey background, because that is would be the complementary of blue. And because we have been using different type of blue, we can play with a dark or lighter orange as we wish. Now the complementary of green is red, and we are gonna maybe add a little pattern that feature that color. So we create like a connection, a visual connection. When you create a piece, regardless what is the piece, if a piece that is focused on colors, I always suggest you, as I suggest to my student, when you color, you use multiple different colors, but always use a color more than once in different spaces and elements, because it will create that visual connection, right? It's like when you look at the piece, you will connect the same colors that you will see in different spots of your pictures, and then create a beautiful color pattern that enhance and support the cohesiveness of your piece, the harmony of the piece, the balance, because it's like, when you connect the dots, you're connecting the different colors, and that will bring the picture together at your eyes and the eyes of whoever is looking at the picture. Now let's go for another green, which I don't know if I want it really bright, or probably I'm not gonna do it super bright. I want to stay in super light. It's just slightly lighter. This is a sort of an olive green. And once again, let's say that you have a brighter green, you can do the light green, and then you can go on top of the light green with a nice light gray marker. And that will turn your green down, and you can create a tone of that pure color. I like to go over one more time to smooth like the texture. Nice. Yes, I'm satisfied. I'm gonna keep using the same green for the other leaves as well. And when you go over, you see that the color gets more intense, and also the texture get nice and smooth. Let's proceed over here carefully. You can outline your stuff. The slower you go with your hands, the more time you will give the ink to expand on the paper. So technically, you go slow to go fast, which I don't know if it makes sense, but you go slow so you don't have to retouch, and the color will show very nice and neat. This is what I'm trying to teach my students, and oh my, it's one of the most difficult concepts to grasp apparently. They still, when they color so fast and so quick, and then it's all scribbled and they get tired. And so I'm trying to explain, look, The slower you go, the better. You won't get tired. You will be able to precisely fill the spaces that you need to. And at the same time, you will get a better texture and better quality. You will treat the markers way gentler, so they won't dry up so fast. So the concept is like you go slow to go fast, because otherwise, they know that I make them redo the project or recolor if I see that they rush it through what they scribbled. Now we go on to the background, and I have a couple of vermilion French, which is a dark orange, which makes sense because, as we say, we use multiple and different type of blue. Let's see if I can use the back tip, which is nice and big. If you don't have the back tip, it's gonna, like the thick dual tip marker, it's okay. It's gonna take you a little longer, but it's fine. Like art, as many other beautiful things in life that are worth our attention and energy, they take times, and that is actually what makes them so special, right? So a nice technique, just not to get confused, is to outline basically the spaces that you have to color. You can even decide to do this type of outline with a dark orange and then switch and use a light orange to fulfill the rest. So basically the flower will get outlined and emphasized by this thick outline, and then the rest of the background could feature the same color, just lighter. Sometimes, when you start for a piece, you start a piece and you have an idea, and then along the way you can add and change and twist that idea a little bit, right? Because maybe you say, oh, well, now that I see the piece, I think that I'm gonna do this. I think that I want to try that. Every time that you hear that little voice, try it out. And then what is the worst thing that can happen? That you don't like it, you will still finish the piece, and you will take a mental note of what to do different the following time. So, no stress, no pressure, right? It's just a piece of paper. So, worst thing that can happen is that we want to do the thing again, which is also a good thing because we are going to make a more time for art, and we're going to spend extra energy in something amazing and very beneficial. So it's a win-win. You experiment something and maybe you succeed and you love it first sight, or you fail and you don't like it and you learn so much through the process, and now you will have to do again. As I say, you can do this and then use an orange as a background, which is going to be light. Let's see how it goes. I'm going to try. This is instead is a lighter orange, traditional orange. Oh, there is a tiny, tiny little bag. Probably so attracted by all of these colors. And you might barely see the differences, but let it dry, because markers, when they dry, they kind of get a little lighter. And so you have this sort of a frame and thick outline around your flowers and leaves. But then you have the same family, the same color family, right? We're still in the orange range for this background, which will create such a contrast with the blue of the flower, because they sit on the opposite side of the color wheel, therefore are complementary, which means that they complement somehow each other and they create a beautiful visual um, contrast that is very appealing for some reason. Now, it's something funny that if you mix instead the complementary colors, for example, if you mix the red with the green, you will have a sort of a muddy brownish color, which they're not as pretty and as attractive like their their parents basically, because they are made by mixing primary color. But still, oopsie, look what I noticed. I've noticed that I didn't outline my leaf over here. And off we go. Darker orange and then back to a lighter orange. Go slow so the nice as, you will have it nice and smooth. And once again, if you do not have the benefit of dual tip markers for today, you can still do a beautiful, beautiful work by using the regular tip, and you will just like place the lines and the stripe of the markers very slowly like I'm doing right now, and they will still give you a beautiful, beautiful result. Maybe a little more textured because your lines will be a little thinner than mine, but very, very gorgeous and very well done. And I like because the frame that I create with the darker orange, they're not super different. They're not very, very different. So they don't like stand out that much. But if you will notice them, and they look like a sort of a cast of shadow almost around the flower, which I personally love. And please, after you do the practice, if you do something different, for example, if you choose a different color palette, color combinations, and a different technique, please just let me know. I know that you cannot share photo on um, YouTube, and I know that I have a Facebook page that is not super, super active, friends. It's like a little dormant just because I have so many things to do and I need to prioritize my teaching in school. I'm still taking college classes, and then I am, I want to spend the rest of my energy and attention and effort to this channel, which is my baby. And so I do not have so much time then to publish a photo. But please, please, please always feel free to join the Facebook group that is called Art with Ms.B, so you cannot mistaken it for anything else. And then you can publish a photo as well as comment and question in that page too. But here you can just let me know with your words how the practice went for you. What did you do differently? And if you have any question at all, any questions about the technique and the color palette and, whatever you need to know. I'm going to switch the tip because tiny, tiny. You see, it's the same technique. Nice. Now let me grab the dark orange just to go back. I'm going to quickly go back to my darker outline just to make them a little more evident and to support that, as I say, sort of a shadow that flowers and leaves are going to project on that background, which I really, really, really like it. Nice. Let me see a little bit more over here. Dark it up. Here, nice between the flower and the leaf. Nice, nice, nice. And this one. Top. And all done. Now we're going to switch to our black, and very carefully we're gonna do our black outlines. We'll just go over the lines that we trace with a pencil. And if you want to add texture with the black or patterns, you are totally free to do so. This is what I probably will be doing on some of the petals, because remember what we say, because we use a pretty dark and intense colors, now the petals look that they're like all together. You cannot see the single petals anymore, and we are going to make them visible again just by adding very simple black outline. If you need to go slower, please go slower. You know your skills. The most important things is that you go for the best quality that you're able to perform, right? That you're able to produce. So take your time. Don't rush it. If you need to pause the video, you can always pause the video, or you can keep like working at your own time, you know, and pace. Sorry. Oh my goodness, English. Now I'm about to outline these petals. And it's just so relaxing because it's really now stress-free. The design is all done. Color palette is all done and decided. So I just need to go and take care of tiny final details. And something like a simple, with simple lines and simple shapes, just well planned, with a very good use of space, not too busy, not too empty, nice balance between the main images, which are flowers and leaves, and the background, and play with a good, well thought color palette can create a beautiful, beautiful piece. You can use a design like that for fabric. You can transfer the design online as a vector, and then you can work and create a digital pattern. You can do cards, handmade cards featuring this design. How pretty would be. You can make less because the cards are smaller. You can make a couple, and you can make different colors combination. So you see so many things that you will make you will be able to create by this starting point, right? And this is also a lesson that sometimes the simplest things are also very important, very beautiful. We don't have to do complicated stuff. We do not have to feel like frustration all the time. We do not have to overwhelm ourselves. We can just like go for something simple, well done, dedicate time and effort, right? And gain some more knowledge. Now I'm gonna do a tiny little pattern for the stems so they don't look so flat. Gonna add a little visual interest and make it more like create a sort of sense of a rhythm and movement, right? And pattern is they are a very good way to create some movement and bring some energy into your piece. Maybe we can do some of the vein in the leaves so they once again you create this rhythm, right? That was my markers that fell. Once again, if you need to go slower, go slower. Now, nice pattern on the petals, few simple lines, not too many, but I feel that, yes, so they really make a huge difference. And on the dark blue, you will barely see them, but you will see them. And you know that they are there, right? Distance the lines, like in a different way. Some of them might be equally distant, and then you play with instead placing them and positioning them farther apart, close to each other. I really like those. Many flowers that I do an abstract, they remind me poppy flower, which is truly one of my favorite flowers among, with along with the sunflower. So we don't have a blue poppy flowers, at least I don't think so. But still, the shapes remind me of poppies. And nice. Be spontaneous in adding those lines. They don't have to be perfect. They have to look nice and organic. Nice. Love it. Now, because we say we're going to grab a red, traditional red, and I'm going to add some texture on the background. So we have the two complementary, right? The blue and the orange, and then the green and the red. And I will just do tiny little strokes just to have fun. If you don't want, you don't have to add them, but I feel that it's nice because they will connect with the texture that we did inside the stem. So they create a beautiful, connections, visual connections, and they're just fine. They are just so fun. They're just a tiny little vertical strokes, medium size, more or less equally spaced. Once again, spontaneous. Don't stress yourself. We place them perfectly. It's like more tiny, tiny little strokes, touch and go. That it became a beautiful, beautiful design that, as I hope, will give you ideas to replicate the design and use it for cards, for small artworks, to create a series. I love to create a series, like conceptual series of something, so you can play with different color palettes and keep in mind that the color wheel and the color theory about complementary, analogous, right? You can potentially do almost infinite combinations of colors. And now you know that these are very simple to design. You don't need to have incredible skills or a lot of experience. It's something that is really nice and approachable for many, many, many different skill levels and artistic background. And I think that my pattern is all done and I really, really love it. I hope you had fun and I'm gonna see you all very soon with more colorful art.